It started on an ordinary Tuesday evening in Boulder, Colorado, the kind of night where the wind hums softly through the pines and the world feels suspended between calm and collapse. My phone lit up on the counter. A text from my mother. "Don't call or come over. We're done, and don't even think about the will, sweetie." No context. No warning, just the final punctuation of a lifetime sentence I hadn't realized I'd been serving. I stared at those words until the glow of the screen blurred, then I typed 2 words back. Got it. I didn't add a period that I didn't need. 1 dot because some endings don't require grammar, only silence. By midnight, my phone was a battlefield, missed calls, messages, voicemails stacking like falling bricks, but I didn't answer. Instead, I sat at the small kitchen table, the tea I'd made growing colder with each vibration. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was recognition, the quiet truth that my family, the one that smiled for Christmas cards and prayed over turkey, had never really seen me, not once. I grew up as Claire Rivers, daughter of Thomas and Margaret Rivers, owners of a chain of diners across Colorado. People called us the Rivers royalty. From the outside, we looked flawless. Dad's white shirts always pressed, Mom's pearl earrings flashing under the Sunday light, my brother Evan's laughter booming like he owned every room he entered. And me, the quiet one. The artist, the disappointment dressed in potential. Dad built his empire one greasy kitchen at a time, and he expected obedience, not opinion. At dinner he'd point a fork at me and declare, "Respect is earned through hard work, not pretty ideas." What he meant was, his work, his rules. When I told him I'd been accepted into an architecture program in Portland, he laughed. "So you're gonna draw houses while the rest of us build real ones?" Mom poured more wine and smiled that tight, diplomatic smile she'd perfected. "He's just hard on you because he believes in you, honey." But her eyes said something else, "Don't make it worse." I paid my own tuition. 2 jobs, no safety net. Meanwhile, Evan, the golden boy, got a brand new truck at 16 for helping out at the diner. Every milestone of his came with applause, every dream of mine came with a warning. Still, I stayed close, because somewhere in me lived the foolish hope that love could be earned through effort. I funded Mom's medical treatments when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. I helped Dad replace kitchen equipment after a fire. I bailed Evan out when his new brew pub collapsed under debt. Each time, I told myself, maybe now they'll see me. They didn't. 5 years later, when Mom recovered, Dad threw a party, Evan gave a speech. My name wasn't mentioned once. I smiled for photos anyway, because that's what you do when you're the quiet one, you fill the silence others leave behind. Then came the family meeting. Dad called it a discussion about the future. I should have known that meant Evan's future, not mine. The long oak table gleamed beneath the chandelier, framed photos of Evan lined the walls, him with trophies, him cutting ribbons beside Dad, him shaking hands with mayors. I stood at the end, laptop open, ready to present a proposal, a sustainable design partnership for their restaurants, eco-friendly interiors that cut long-term costs. I'd worked on it for months. It was beautiful, efficient, modern. I'd barely spoken 5 minutes before Dad interrupted. "You think customers care about recycled wood?" His voice was calm, but sharp enough to slice. Evan snickered, not looking up from his phone. "Stick to painting walls, Claire." Mom rearranged napkins like they were diplomacy tools, avoiding my eyes. "It's design," I whispered. "It saves money." Dad leaned back, crossing his arms. "We're not wasting money on your hobby. Evan's opening another location. That's priority." And there it was, the invisible wall I'd been pushing against for 32 years. Later that night, Emily, Evan's wife, found me outside. Rain dripped from the gutters, cold and rhythmic. "Claire," she whispered, "there's something you should know." Her hands trembled as she spoke. "Evan's been skimming money from the restaurants. Thousands. I found the accounts." I stared at her, pulse hammering. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "He's been hiding it for years." Before I could respond, Dad's voice carried from inside. We need to finalize the will. Evan's the only one keeping this family together. Mom murmured agreement, and there it was again, that word that had always excluded me, family. The next morning, her text arrived, the digital guillotine. Don't call or come over. We're done. And don't even think about the will. I stared until my reflection warped in the screen, then I typed. Got it. That morning, the city was still half asleep that I sat by the window, kettle hissing, tea steaming in the soft light, and something shifted, the quiet that used to terrify me now felt like control. I opened my laptop, banking app, click, cancel transfer to mom's clinic, cancel supply payments, cancel Evan's loan. Each click sounded like a lock turning. By noon, the calls began, mom first, then dad, then Evan. That I didn't answer, that I couldn't, because for the first time, I understood, silence can be self-defense. By sunset, my phone showed 20 missed calls, 11 voicemails, dozens of texts filled with guilt-dipped daggers. You're tearing the family apart. You'll regret this. You're killing your mother. I set the phone face down, the world went still. And in that stillness, I felt something rise, not anger, but clarity. They didn't want me, they wanted the version of me that paid the bills, solved the chaos, smiled through insult. That version had just died. Days passed, the storm didn't stop, it just changed shape, threats turned to pleading, pleading to manipulation. Then came a voicemail from dad labeled urgent, his voice was sharp, commanding. You need to fix this, Claire. The restaurants can't survive without you. You owe us that much. Oh, the word landed like an insult. Another voicemail, Evan, angry now. You think you're better than us? You'll come crawling back. Then mom, soft and trembling. Please, Claire, don't do this to me. I pressed my hands to the counter until the cold marble steadied me. They weren't reaching for forgiveness, they were reaching for control. By Friday, Emily called again. They know I told you. Evan's furious. Her voice shook. He's saying you made it up. Don't worry, I told her. I'm done explaining myself. But I wasn't done yet, not completely. That I needed closure, not revenge. So I agreed to meet them. The cafe was neutral ground, small, quiet, anonymous, rain pressed against the windows, the kind that blurs faces and softens edges. They were already there when I walked in, dad, rigid, mom, pale, Evan, tapping his phone like a weapon. No, Emily. You've caused a disaster, dad began before I. Saturday, bills are overdue. Vendors are threatening to sue. That's not my problem anymore, I said calmly. Evan sneered. You think you're better than us because you draw pretty pictures? Design, I corrected softly. The word is design. He laughed. Always dramatic. I met his eyes. You stole from the restaurants. Silence, even the barista froze. Dad frowned. What are you talking about? Emily told me everything, I said. Hidden accounts. Thousands missing. Evan's face hardened. She's lying. She has proof. Dad turned toward him, eyes narrowing. Is that true? Evan stood abruptly, chair scraping. You believe her over me? Enough, I said quietly. This isn't about belief. It's about respect, something this family stopped giving a long time ago. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Claire, don't do this. You already did, I replied. When you sent that text. The cafe held its breath. Dad muttered. You've always been too sensitive. I smiled faintly. And you've always mistaken cruelty for strength. From my bag, I pulled a folder. I sold my sustainable design project, I said. A national firm bought it for $1 million. Shock rippled across their faces. I built that without you, I continued. No loans. No favors. Evan scoffed. Good for you. Want a trophy? No, I said. I just want you to understand, I don't need this family anymore. Dad's jaw tightened. Money doesn't make you powerful. Walking away does. The silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Mom's voice trembled. We're still your family. Family doesn't write you off when the money stops, I whispered. Evan slammed his fist on the table. You're pathetic. Funny, I said, standing. That's exactly what you called me when you took my help. Dad rose halfway. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, hand on the chair. But at least I'll regret it on my own terms. I turned and walked toward the door. Mom's whisper followed. Please, Claire. But I didn't look back, the bell chimed softly behind me. Outside, the air was clean, the sun breaking through rain. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. Ignored that I inhaled deeply, for the first time, the air didn't taste of guilt. A year later, news reached me through friends, not family. The Rivers Dining's chain had collapsed. Evan's embezzlement went public. Lawsuits followed. Dad tried to fight, but numbers don't lie. Mom sold their home. Evan vanished somewhere in Arizona. Emily left with their daughter. I didn't celebrate that. I didn't gloat that. I just felt quiet, like standing on a hill after a storm, looking at the ruins of what once terrified you. By then, my firm had grown. 2 offices, one in Seattle, one in New York. That I designed hotels that carried my name in brass at the door. Sometimes I'd walk into a lobby I'd created, the warm lighting, the stillness, and think, this is what home feels like when you build it yourself. One afternoon, in a Manhattan cafe, I ordered tea, the same kind I'd had that night when everything ended. The steam rose, curling like memory. A notification blinked, unknown number from Boulder. I let it ring, the sound faded under soft jazz. I smiled and lifted the cup. The tea was still bitter, but now I understood that it wasn't the drink. It was the lesson. Peace doesn't come from fixing others. It comes from letting them fall. People sometimes ask if I miss them. The truth is, I miss the idea of them, the family I kept hoping existed somewhere beneath the manipulation, but that version never lived outside my imagination. Now, when I think of family, I think of mornings where silence means safety. I think of friends who show up without expecting repayment. I think of the strength it takes to walk away, and the calm that follows when you finally do. If you've ever had to choose between love and survival, between loyalty and peace, you already know how this story feels. Walking away isn't weakness. It's wisdom written in scars, and sometimes, silence is the loudest way to say, I'm free. If this story resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe, because the next story might remind you that freedom doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes, it just comes with a quiet cup of tea, and the courage to finally say, got it.